I woke up to a miracle today. Triggers stay as I find my way. No judgment to lead astray. In this peaceful state I'll stay.
All right, welcome to this exploration. We're tackling a lesson today that I think really promises something profound. It's this total rest from the mental gymnastics of daily life.
Yes, lesson 346.
Today the peace of God envelops me, and I forget all things except his love.
And that title it's so powerful. It really speaks to this desire to just stop the endless mental chatter.
Right.
So what we're really doing here is looking very closely at that mechanism in the mind, the one that assigns meaning to everything that happens.
And how a different way of seeing, a different interpretation shifts our relationship to everything that unfolds around us.
Exactly.
Because when a lot of people first read this, that phrase, I forget all things, can sound like a call to literally withdraw.
To retreat.
Yeah, exactly. Shut off the phone, ignore your job, just pull back from the world.
But the system we're exploring here, it consistently points toward an internal shift. It's a profound change in interpretation.
The world stays the same.
But the way the mind handles the world it's completely transformed.
Understanding that distinction is, I think, it's the whole context, isn't it?
It is. This lesson
Yeah.
really relies on the groundwork we've laid in, in previous explorations.
The definition.
The definitions, yes. How the Course defines identity, the actual nature of perception, and this is key, the functional mechanism of forgiveness, not the emotional one.
Right.
Without that groundwork, the whole idea of forgetting all things can feel, well, either irresponsible or just plain impossible.
So let's bring that language forward. Let's read the lesson text itself. Lesson 346. Today the peace of God envelops me, and I forget all things except his love. Father, I wait today with miracles correcting my perception of all things, and so begins the day I share with you as I will share eternity, for time is stepped aside today. I do not seek the things of time, and so I will not look upon them. What I seek today transcends all laws of time and things perceived in time. I would forget all things except your love. I would abide in you and know no laws except your law of love. And I would find the peace which you created for your Son, forgetting all the foolish toys I made as I behold your glory and my own.
And when evening comes today, we will remember nothing but the peace of God. For we will learn today what peace is ours, when we forget all things except God's love.
That phrase right at the beginning there, time is stepped aside today, that's where the confusion starts, I think, for so many people.
It is. It's an immediate trigger point.
People hear that and they think it means, throwing out your calendar, ignoring the clock.
Believing that physical time management is somehow the obstacle.
Yeah, but the lesson and the Course in general, it's so consistently clear on this. This is not about clocks. It's not about your schedule. It's about the mind's interpretation of time. And more than that, its use of time.
That's the crucial part, the use. Because what's essential here is to recognize that time, in this context, is mainly a tool.
And a construct.
It's a construct that the ego uses to build and maintain its identity. The ego has no definition of itself in the now, in the present moment. So what does it do? It constantly uses memory. And it uses anticipation. And with those two things, it builds this unstable story about who you are.
And that's the core link right there between time and identity.
It's everything.
When we, reach for a past success to make ourselves feel better about something happening right now.
Or project a future disaster onto a conversation you're about to have.
Yes. In that moment, the mind is using time as a measuring stick for your value. It's deciding what this present situation means about your competence or your safety or, your standing in the world.
And as long as that system is running, the mind isn't meeting what's actually here.
No.
Not in the present instant. It's always meeting the meaning it has already assigned to the situation.
Through memory or anticipation.
Right.
Which brings us to defining the things of time. Because it's not just physical stuff, is it? It's not the car or the house.
No, not at its core. The things of time are the outcomes we chase.
The roles we defend.
The roles we defend so vigorously. And the social comparisons we rely on to feel secure.
Give me an example.
Okay, so a job title. Or maintaining a perfect punctuality score.
Right.
Or successfully managing a really difficult relationship.
Right. The lesson then is this invitation to just stop using any of that external time-bound evidence as the source of your identity.
And the external events themselves, they remain totally neutral. A task, a conversation.
Your morning commute is a disaster and you're delayed.
Right. The event is just information. It's just a fact. But it's the interpretation that the mind adds that transforms that neutral input.
Into the emotional experience.
Yes, into the feeling of success or relief or failure or deep frustration.
So the day's activities, they all continue. You're still driving, you're still working, still talking to people.
Nothing on the outside has to change.
But what's invited to drop is the storyline. The narrative that declares, this situation proves something definitive about my worth.
That's it. If the delay proves you're unimportant, or the mistake proves you're incompetent, that is the added layer of meaning.
That's the thing we're asked to forget.
Right. We can almost see this as the ego's running tally. It's like a continuous internal scoreboard.
Oh, I like that, a running tally.
The delay doesn't just happen. The mind immediately adds the verdict. This delay means I am now failing at my day.
The mistake isn't just an error, it becomes a proof point.
A proof point for this proves my fundamental flaws. The events are just neutral facts, but the mind jumps to generating this negative, self-defining conclusion.
I found that this mechanism is so noticeable in situations where I had placed a really high, almost a moral value on an outcome. For me, it was efficiency, punctuality. For a long, long time, I used being on time not as, a simple social courtesy, but as a measure for doing life right. So if I was late, I wasn't just late. In my mind, I was a failure.
And that's such a profoundly relatable example. So letting go of the things of time is precisely that act. It's noticing that internal operation.
The moment the mind starts adding the meaning.
Yes, and choosing to withdraw this investment from that scorekeeping system. And identity is then free to rest in love, which is stable. And if you expand on that idea, just think about how much mental energy is spent anticipating failure or trying to manage how other people see you based on your shared history.
The difficult conversation with a colleague.
Perfect example. You're preparing for it, and the ego pulls up every single negative interaction with that person. It weaves it all into the present moment.
So you're not even responding to the person in front of you.
Not at all. You're responding to the 5-year-old memory of them.
And that memory is the thing of time we're being asked to forget.
That's it. The instruction isn't pretend the history didn't happen. That would be denial.
Right. It's to withdraw the emotional charge, withdraw the identity conclusion you derive from that history.
And when the mind releases that meaning, the experience exists neutrally. You can meet the present moment as a new experience, unburdened by the past.
We often confuse meeting the present moment with, acting impulsively or without thought.
And it's actually the complete opposite. It's the height of responsibility to meet the current situation without the distortion of past grievances or future fears.
Because that distorted narrative is what makes our responses so reactive.
Exactly.
Okay, so if time is the tool the ego uses to measure our worth, let's look at the immediate price we pay internally for running that scoreboard.
The second that meaning gets attached to a neutral event, judgment follows.
It's an inseparable consequence.
Absolutely. We move from the task was incomplete, which is a fact, to I am incomplete, which is a judgment. We start measuring ourselves by these fluctuating standards we created and, rarely even examined.
And the ego deciding what an outcome or an action or a delay means about our core identity.
And that assigned meaning has an internal consequence. Anger, irritation, anxiety, guilt. All of these are internal reactions that stem directly from that initial inner judgment. Anger is never truly directed outward.
Say more about that.
It's a form of self-attack based on a meaning that the mind created internally.
Okay, I want to challenge that just a bit for the listener. Because if someone is truly wronged, let's say they suffer a huge financial setback because of someone else's negligence, it seems completely appropriate to feel anger, or at least justifiable frustration. How does the Course ask us to look at that loss without becoming a doormat, without denying a genuine external injury?
The external fact, the loss, the injury, the negligence, is true on the level of external facts. We don't deny that.
Yeah.
But the internal, painful emotional consequence, the anger, the guilt, that is always rooted in the meaning you assign to that fact about yourself.
No.
The ego uses the external event as a mirror to confirm its deepest fear. Separation, vulnerability, failure.
The mechanism of self-attack is that the mind creates the meaning internally. Something like, this external loss proves I am fundamentally incompetent or unsafe.
Yes.
And then the resulting feeling, the anger or guilt, acts as the enforcement for that painful meaning. The external situation just provided the blank screen for the mind to project its verdict onto.
And what's so critical to grasp here is that this entire system of judgment includes both positive and negative evaluations.
Right. It's not just criticism that's the problem.
No. Praise and criticism both fit neatly into the ego structure, affirming, I am good because of this success, or I am bad because of this failure.
And both of those are unstable statements. They're built on fluctuating external evidence.
Absolutely.
So if I rely on a compliment for my stability today, I am going to be equally destabilized by the first criticism I get tomorrow.
Both originate from the same system. Neither one truly defines the individual.
Both of them ultimately block the miracle, because judgment, whether it's positive or negative, it's saying that the external world has the power to define our intrinsic worth, which is the opposite of the Course's affirmation of our inherent unconditional innocence.
Defined by love.
And this brings us back to the function of the Holy Spirit, which is so often misunderstood. The Holy Spirit supplies meaning without measuring behavior.
It doesn't assess what we do. It just affirms our inherent innocence and safety.
The practice here is just noticing the mind as it assigns that worth, and then choosing to withdraw consent from that meaning.
So when we use the central instruction from the lesson, I forget all things except his love, we are allowing the experience to exist without the simultaneous demand that it be turned into evidence that either proves or disproves who we are.
The moment we choose to see that interpretation, that judgment, as a form of self-attack, our whole motivation to release it changes.
It changes everything.
The goal shifts from trying to manage external outcomes perfectly, which is a task that is doomed to fail,
to simply noticing internal self-abuse and choosing to stop participating in it.
and that is the function of the miracle in this context. It corrects our confusion about our identity.
Sickness, depression, anxiety. They are the painful conviction that the ego's interpretation and its suffering is what defines us.
And by withdrawing the meaning, we remove the fuel for that confusion.
If we just accept that we are constantly using external, time-based events to measure ourselves, then the emotional pain we feel is simply the result of those measurements falling short of some impossible ideal.
By forgetting the things of time, we're just saying, I am not going to grade myself today.
And that non-grading is the immediate path to recognizing the peace that's already inherent in us.
So the shift away from self-grading requires two specific tools: forgiveness and forgetting,
And we really need to define both of those terms clearly here.
because they function so differently from how the conventional world uses them.
Right. Forgiveness is not emotional. It is not about trying to generate a feeling of warmth towards someone who wronged you.
No.
It means looking directly at the painful meaning or the judgment that we added to a neutral event or person.
And recognizing the origin of that meaning.
Yes, that meaning came from us, from our decision to use the event to affirm the ego's story.
And the power in that definition is that it takes responsibility for the interpretation, not the external facts.
That's the key.
If I decide a delay means I'm irrelevant,
Yeah.
forgiveness means recognizing this feeling of irrelevance is my choice. It comes from the meaning I applied to the external fact of the delay.
The external fact remains, but the self-attack is just dismantled the moment you see it originated in your own mind.
And this functional definition of forgiveness leads us right into the Course's definition of forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
In Lesson 346, forgetting does not mean ignoring what happened externally.
No, it's not denial. It means withdrawing the meaning, withdrawing the judgment, the conclusion, the story that we placed on the event.
So it's a conscious, active choice to stop using that interpretive layer.
And when that meaning is withdrawn, the present moment is no longer obligated to carry the weight of an old verdict.
It's like pulling the plug on a projector. The film, the external event, it's still there.
But the emotional light and shadow that gave it all its power have been shut off.
This functional forgetting is so incredibly powerful in relationships.
We often find ourselves responding not to the person who is standing right in front of us, but to the accumulated history.
The conclusions we drew about them 5 years ago.
Yes, we walk into the situation preloaded with memory.
But when we forget, when we withdraw those meanings, we're suddenly free to respond only to what is actually present in this moment.
Not to the ghost of past conclusions.
The lesson specifically mentions forgetting all the foolish toys I made.
And these are the accumulated ego identities, the roles we play that define our worth.
And these identities, they only seem solid and valuable and essential while we are actively relying on them for our definition. The lesson says that miracles correct perception.
And that shift in interpretation is what the Course calls healing.
The ego insists that the external world dictates our internal state. It confirms the idea that we're victims of circumstances.
And the miracle just reverses this. It affirms that the internal choice about meaning dictates the experience of the external world.
We stop asking the world to validate our worth.
And we start affirming the love that's already present, regardless of the circumstance.
You know, we are choosing what to carry forward.
We are deciding that the only thing worth remembering, the only thing that actually defines us, is the love that is independent of time and circumstance.
So if the intellectual understanding of Lesson 346 is that we have to drop meaning, the practical question is how? How exactly do I stop assigning meaning?
The practice is just to pause and observe that specific meaning being generated internally. Once you've caught the meaning, identify the attached judgment.
And the resulting self-attack or consequence.
Yes. For example, a tight feeling in your chest, a feeling of defensiveness or irritation.
And the core of the holy instant.
You realize this tension that I'm feeling comes from the meaning I added, not from the external event.
And by recognizing that internal origin, you can choose to withdraw your consent from that judgment.
You just say, internally, I will not use the situation to judge myself. Or, I forget all things except love right now.
That deliberate release means that what's happening externally, the task, the conversation, the delay, is no longer forced to carry this story about your worth.
The holy instant interrupts that. You stop. You acknowledge the fact.
You identify the judgment, the narrative.
And you release the meaning. This is a fact. It is not a definition of my competence.
The experience stops being a scorecard. It just becomes a neutral challenge to be navigated.
And the mental energy that was previously being consumed by self-attack is instantly liberated. It's available for actual problem solving. The sustained result of this practice is that the mind just rests in love. We're just training the mind to be present by releasing the mental baggage of the past and the manufactured anxiety of the future.
Baggage which is entirely composed of meaning we added. So when you look back at the day and find you remember nothing but peace, it means the mental scorekeeping system was finally laid aside.
You did not use the day to reinforce guilt.
So we've spent this time exploring Lesson 346. This exploration focused entirely on those internal shifts, how the mind uses time to create an unstable identity, and how judgment, positive or negative, acts as self-attack that blocks our inherent peace.
And we drilled down into the functional tools needed for this shift. We clarified that forgiveness means recognizing the meaning originated with us, and forgetting means actively withdrawing that judgmental meaning.
The miracle acts as the correction of perception.
Yeah.
It shifts us from a fear-based verdict to a recognition of innocence.
And most practically, we looked at the holy instant as that moment-to-moment mechanism that interrupts the automatic habit of using time for self-judgment,
allowing us to drop the anxious narrative instantly, as often as necessary throughout the day.
We recognize the peace that is already ours. It's released from the burden of interpretation.
Thank you for joining us for this exploration. As you move through your day, here's a prompt to challenge your habitual thinking.
If the external event is entirely neutral and the suffering is entirely derived from the meaning you assign, what would happen if you simply let the meaning to go?
I